Welcome back to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, and I'm just going to do this, get this intro done, and get out of the way, and I'll step to the side. The Oklahoma City Thunder are your 2025 NBA champions. One of the most incredible, just like the fact that we're here after 7 games and they didn't do it in 4, and the expectations that this team had. They're the second youngest team to ever make the NBA championship, nonetheless win it, because obviously the 77 Blazers we talked about did win it. But this team feels so much more mature than that. They feel so much more elevated, and that's something that I've really enjoyed throughout this run. We're going to jump into all the stuff about Game 7. Halliburton's injury, of course, we're going to have to touch on because of the unfortunate circumstance. And then, of course, I'm not going to let this 45 minutes go by without talking about the history of all this. So, but let's just react to the moment and what happened. Obviously, from a fan who's been on these shows now, we've basically done these for, we did 10 games combined and now we get 7 more. So really happy how this series turned out. Obviously from a non-fan perspective, I just enjoyed a good series, but again, let me bow out here. The Thunder are NBA champions. Thoughts, reactions, random outbursts.
Yeah, it's speechless. I didn't really know what I was going to do if they actually pulled this off. I've been watching these apartments kind of in solitary confinement, self-imposed, not playing solitaire, but I just kind of by myself watching the games. I'm superstitious to the point where I watched the game on my laptop from the same seat the entire time. I didn't move. I don't think I cut my TV on until there was a minute left regulation. I was just like, it didn't feel real. The lead jumped to 22, came back down to 12. It was, a little bit closer than that, I think. Never felt over until obviously you hit the minute mark and you're up, 6, 7 possessions, and you realize like they're only going to touch the ball like one more time. There's nothing they could do at that point. Dagnall cleared the bench. And then the confetti fell, and it's still, I stood in front of my TV like all the people on Twitter do, and I had nothing. Just not even, I wasn't one of the ones running laps around, anything like that. I was speechless. I've watched this team since their uniforms caught my eye in 07. And they've been, that due team, that next team up through, whether it was getting past the Memphis teams, the Spurs teams, the Warriors teams, getting to a finals, running into LeBron seeking a first ring and getting bulldozed in that series after a Game 1 win that not many people saw coming. Just kind of being that team like, well, they're young, they'll figure it out. It'll happen. They're going to win a championship. And just iteration after iteration came up short. And we saw the knee jerk after the finals appearance and what that did. And now, same day they win a title, all 3 of those cornerstones from back then have now been Houston Rockets. So just surreal. I could rattle off players and guys that are responsible for this, and it would take me 2 hours. So, Chris Paul, he needs a key to the city. I've got his jersey. I didn't throw it on just because I've been glued to the TV since the game ended. But yeah, I wish I could describe it better than that just as a fan. But the basketball itself, 84 win team, you can throw as many narratives of that as you want. They're not going to stick. That's rare air for a reason. It's not been done. It doesn't get done by teams this young. It hasn't happened to a team this young since our parents were half our age. It's just doesn't happen. It's not supposed to happen. People said it should have happened last year. We would have probably run into Boston and it would have felt like 2011 all over again. But that was the Boston team that had reached the finals and were supposed to win and didn't. And next year's not promised. That roster is not guaranteed to be intact. Injury luck. I really do hate that Halliburton had to exit this game. He embodies everything about the Pacers that has gotten him here. Just toughness, grit, 48 minutes of he's leaving nothing on the court. putting his body on the line literally, and it looks like he may have seriously hurt himself and might have cost himself all of next season. So nothing but respect for him. McConnell, couldn't tell him anything. Doesn't matter. He went on his mini third quarter run. Thunder could not stop it. He was the only guy scoring for that team, and we could not stop him. Can't say enough about Indy. I mean, they fought, scratch clawed their way all the way here. But then, it was a close game. They were up at halftime. I mean, people aren't going to remember that, but that team against all odds with your best player shelved. Having that happen mid-game after he started with 3 electric long-distance threes, who knows what would happen after that? But the word finally comes to mind. I mean, it seems like it's television. People are already saying this team's going to win 3 or 4, but you can't win 3 or 4 if you don't win one. And this team's been searching for one for almost 2 decades as the Thunder. And if you want to go back to the Seattle portion of things, that was 1979. That was a long, long, long time ago, and it's been due. It's been supposed to happen. It's been should have happened, and now it happened.
Yeah. Just from again outside in perspective here. What's made this really impressive too is just you want to talk about like style of play and defense and all the way down to the negative stuff, the foul baiting, whatever it means. You want to talk about all the stuff that's truly just really cool about basketball is you get to see a team build the way, and we'll get into the future about these teams in a little bit. But to start this rebuild 6 years ago, and in every sense of the imagination, like a team go from 24 wins to an NBA championship in one of the most dominant fashions in NBA history. I don't really want to touch on the history part just yet. Like I think that deserves its own few minutes later. You know how I am with that stuff. But I mean, just downright impressive. I really like. I have a bunch of notes about the game. I actually got in. Unknowingly thinking this time was going to work out, but I didn't even get in to sit down and watch the game really comfortably until about halfway through the second quarter. So I was kept playing catch up again. Finally got caught up. Just you mentioned the league going up, the league going down. I mean, Caruso checks in the first quarter, he hits back-to-back threes, and that immediately felt like it was like, okay, they're here to play for real. And then that first half, like it came to a screeching halt when they just, I mean, Indiana goes into the half up one. I couldn't even fathom that was the case, especially without Halliburton. So obviously I didn't see the injury live. I did have a note though, like kind of trying to catch up. He'd been being that aggressive offensively early, hit those 3 threes, and I was like, okay, like this, we're in for like an absolute fist fight down to the wire. I mean, just everything that could have happened in the first half that was replicating other games that they had lost. I was downright like, all right, well, they'll play a better second half, you hope. But if they don't manage this third quarter, I've got some third quarter stats I want to get into. I mean, they figured out the third quarter situation. I mean, I know McConnell had his little fun, but I mean, Shea was 0-5 from 3 to start the game. It seemed very desperate. Like it seemed in desperation a couple of times. It was one of those things like it wasn't very characteristic of the way his teams played. I know the pressure we talked about was going to build, but his first 3, I believe, came in the third quarter. So once they finally started to figure out a little bit of a flow offensively, again, I think that third quarter is what won them the NBA championship. I know the fourth quarter was also really incredible, and Indiana at that point was truly in back against the wall mode. But it's downright one of the most impressive runs I've seen of a team really ever in recent memory. Regardless of being Game 7, full credit Indiana. I definitely don't want to not talk about them for a few minutes here and then kind of just go into all this other stuff. But the fact that this was even a Game 7 is just full credit to Indiana and the fight that they had, and Rick Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton just elevating this team to new heights that they continue to just break through whatever ceiling that they had ever had. As we established, like they became the better team in the New York series. Like I think that's truly something that we'll look back on and we're like, okay, I think the better team won. For them to take this team that historically is going to age really, like it's going to be a very interesting watermark on this finals when we're doing the 20 years from now thing. And we sit down and we go, that OKC team went to 7 with them. Like, it's just not even going to sound right. And so we'll have to describe that to folks, and it'll be a truly a testament to just how incredible Indiana was, and just matching Oklahoma City in every regard for 6 games. And here we are, back and forth. All the game one stuff happened, and the Thunder NBA champions. I don't know. Again, credit to Indiana for even like Mark did a really good job of talking about it on the podium just now, but um, we wouldn't. I mean, we wouldn't even be here if Indiana not put up the fight they had. So I wanted to make sure I gave them fair credit. So
Yeah, no, I mean, no part of the historical look back, and things will get lost in translation as we get years removed from this. But I think the word fluke should not be used. Not for OKC, just in the manner the series played out. Unfortunately, Halliburton missing, the lion's share of Game 7, and also the Pacers for getting here. And people will point to injuries like a Lillard or like a Tatum and say, okay, we can kind of connect the dots here. That's how Indy got here. But that could not be further from the truth. Um, and it's not just because, they roared back from down 22 to make it competitive, and they could have lost by 40 tonight. I think all things considered, that would be less surprising than what we saw play out. So, yeah, I don't think we should look back at this as a one-off as a result of anything other than Indiana just playing their ass off 48 minutes down to the absolute final buzzer over and over again. I mean, they embarrassed a Cavaliers team that roared through the regular season, and I mean, the only team to beat Oklahoma City in the regular season from the East was that Cavs team, and there's people, myself included, at times that was saying, as Boston struggled, like, hey, this is the Cavs East to lose. And what do you know? The Pacers, had you removed resumes, looked like the better team early and often in that series. And unfortunately, I know injuries played a part in that series as well. And you could argue that Indy came out the beneficiary of that. But as we saw tonight, it's a cruel game, as beautiful as it can be. And nothing's promised, nothing's guaranteed, and you got to win them when you can. So I know A, B, C, D, and E block of First Take tomorrow will be why this title doesn't count, but um, couldn't care less. They can blow hot air all they want about Indy wins by 10 with Halliburton, or say has to go win a real ring, or whatever garbage they cook up here in the next about 10 hours until they hit live airwaves and in medical offices across the country. But I think that at the end of the day, and I think the historical context we get to a couple years from now, um, should look back at this as the two correct teams got here. And, almost nobody got this series right, even having the hindsight of the entire playoffs. We still lined this up and played. And I had 6, you had it short of that, and we were both wrong. I don't think either one of us would have taken 7 games if we had been given 2 options. But again, that is to the credit of the Pacers, not the detriment of the Thunder. Um, they opened this series absolutely stealing a game. They took over a fourth quarter at home, and they were dominant throughout a game 6 to force this back to 7. So no part of that should be seen as a fluke or anything other than just hard basketball. That's fitting of conference champions that play on this stage.
yeah, I think game one, honestly, the more I think about it, is what even got them to a game 7 in the first place. Like, it just for them to start the series off in a way that was by that point comfortable for them. Like, I mean, down a couple, let's say 10-14 or whatever ended up being in the fourth, and win a game on a buzzer beater. I mean, that clearly became a comfortable position for Indiana, and that's why even with the big lead, I was like, I know most of those, if not all of them, have come with Tyrese on the floor, but I mean, there was never I wasn't. They went up by 1 at half. I mean, what else is
Yeah.
there to say other than that? I mean, you can
You
say it
sent
was
that
a
link. I
different
was like, oh,
playoff.
Trevor. No, you did.
No, I had actually. When did I send that officially? I think
Like
it was in
4
the
minutes
third.
left.
Yeah. I felt like I waited. I waited on purpose, but
No, you did.
preparation, knowing that there was probably going to be about 20 minutes of let's just hang back, let him suck it in, etc. I know. And then they started making that comeback like after I sent it still, and I was like, okay. I was like, I apologize. But no, like it's one of those things. Like you really just think about how this team, Indiana, for a second here, just came to be, and to come back from being able to be. I mean, they were a shell of themselves up until even February.
Mhm.
And for them to be in this position is just downright. I think we talked about it last pod. Like every bit of storyline that I think we could have covered, we've probably already exhausted by now. I feel like we did a good job of trying to figure that out. But we agreed it's Carlisle's best coaching performance. I mean, literally without a doubt anymore.
Absolutely.
But I'll just say this from an OKC thing before we get into all different directions. I want to talk about some performances specifically, and again, the history of it. I think is really neat, and I want to talk about the future as well. Um, they don't win this game without Dort. Straight up, this is a guy
No,
that
they do not.
like top three best performance for a role player in recent memory in a championship win. They straight up don't win this game without Dort. The plus minus and all that's not going to really reflect that. The three of 10 from three, but or from the field, excuse me, 2 of 9 from deep. He just kept taking open ones because they were there. Indiana, of course, was giving it to him, which I mean, he's shot better than that this series, but um, it really felt every time, even though there's only 2 of them on the 3-point board here, they felt huge. That one with the arc, like that he shot up into, I think he shot it into Kansas and it came back down in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That one, I was like, okay, I know that was like, I think they were only up 7 at the time. Don't quote me on that, but he made it, and I was just like, I don't want to be, overreactive Ollie over here, but my God, like that 3 felt like the game changing, like completely shifted the balance of power. And then just steal after steal. People can call it what they want. Like even I think that little up play, I don't remember who he got up on and knocked him down. I think it was Matherin in the 4th, where he like came up and he like landed perfectly straight up and down, arms in the air.
Right.
That doesn't get called on most guys. The problem is he's so big and so muscular that he's
Right.
not getting that benefit of the doubt call. And he blocked the shot too. I thought it was really impressive. But even plays like that may have not resulted in the play that 50-50 shot there, but he was just making play after play after play that quite frankly his stats aren't going to reflect it. But 35 minutes, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, only 1 turnover, 3 fouls. Obviously he was just getting down and dirty towards the end there and just trying to make every play he could to win. It's the guy that you're going to look at the stat sheet in a couple days even and just be like, that guy won us the game when you watch the game. Like it was just straight up that's just the performance that stuck out to me. And I wanted to make sure Dort got some credit there because it was play after play. It was pressure on TJ eventually. Once TJ kind of had his fun, Dort was the reason that he slowed down. I mean, he just straight up was. And he was able to play between the 2 guards that they had to play that Indiana doesn't want to play McConnell McConnell and the my brain tonight injured Nemar together. They didn't want to play those guys together, but they were forced to do that. And so Dort was always be in position to guard both of them on different switches. And it was really, really impressive. So anything from anything, just any angle at this point, because I have a couple of things I want to get to. But
I'm looking at SVP now, plus 259 at home on the postseason. No team in the history of the league's ever done better than that. So
we're going to talk about a lot of historical stuff here. Let's just do that at this point because I didn't know that. That was incredible. I mean,
just every Loud City is just the perfect way to describe this home crowd. And I know it's not the peak anymore. I think it's Paycom now. That's one of those arenas that
whatever.
You can pay for the sponsorship. The name's not changing, i.e., Staples Center, etc. But I could go on. This is one of the few titles I think you should give the crowd a ring. I don't know how you do that, but have a night where everybody that had tickets to this game gets something because every single one of them is responsible for this. And I'm sure that the people that can only make it to 1 game or 2 games before they played here, even the loss, I mean, you felt the atmosphere of game 1, start of the finals, had been over a decade, almost a decade and a half since that building had seen a game of that magnitude, and they showed up and they were consistent. The team was down 1-0, needed them. The team that was 2-2 needed them, got it, and came back 3-3 and got another one. So huge credit to the crowd. Ticket prices were, I'm sure, record highs for that arena and that kind of area of the country. And they showed up. You could tell. I mean, the Thunder got up 5 and they were roaring like they were up 25. And that, I think, bled all the way down to the court and through the bench and played a bigger role than you would think in how this went tonight.
They never let it get tense. I thought it was interesting, even catching up
Mm-mm.
late there. There was a couple stretches in the first half. I was like, okay, Indiana. Like even when Indiana went into half up one, it felt you could feel a little bit like hold the breath there, but I think the break was very well timed for that. And again, once they kind of kicked the can open there in the third quarter, it was all downhill. Um, all right, you said this earlier and talking about the crowd ring. I think it's just all a great segue. It's a question on the fly here. Uh, you mentioned Chris Paul. You mentioned the crowd. Who's the weirdest guy that deserves a ring that isn't actually on the roster today? Who's the weirdest guy in the last 6 years? Let's put the cutoff at Presti called it a 6 year rebuild, whatever,
Right.
or whoever asked him that. Let's just say 6 years, right? So 2019 on. Who's the
Mhm.
weirdest guy that deserves a ring, even though they're not currently employed with the team? From a fan, I feel like you're the best person to answer this question because you've had to watch all 6 years of this. So
I'll give you a journeyman, Dennis Schroeder, for that three-guard lineup
really,
with that Chris
yeah,
Paul team.
yeah.
Because I think Chris Paul, zeroth ballot Hall of Famer, will get all the credit for what he did in Shea's development at an early stage in his career. But I think
Deservedly
Schroeder and
so
that,
too, of course.
oh,
Deservedly so.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think what Dennis brought to that team in the bubble, no pressure, three-guard lineup, very rare. It worked. I think it also helped Shea build his confidence, knowing he had two vets at his back. If he struggled, he could defer to and kind of take a back seat and let somebody else carry the load. And I know J Dub does that now a bit with some of the on-ball stuff, but I would say Dennis Schroeder for sure.
I'm looking back through now, just now that you got the answer out without any influence whatsoever from me. I'm just going back to previous teams. I'm trying to think like, is there somebody that like, I mean, Gordon Hayward would be a no, right?
Absolutely not.
Giddy obviously was on the end of that, trade to get them to this point, and
Yeah.
yeah, I get that. I always really enjoyed Trey Mann. I think it's kind of sad that he was
Oh,
one of the
excellent.
casualties of this.
I
I mean,
know.
granted, he was on the team last year, and you know, losing to Dallas and being a part of that deal. But
Hmm.
just like I said, I'm just going back through off the top of my head and looking at it. People are going to bring up Poku as just a roaring joke, but it's cool to see guys
Amadou
like Kenrich
Diallo.
get
Yeah.
one. Yeah, Hamadou was a good one. I'm only back to 21-22, and like Darius Baisley rings a bell.
Jalen
Uh,
Horde, I think that was his first name, putting up
yeah,
2020 games. Yeah.
right on. Yep, from Wake Forest. Theo Maladon was on there. You and I texted about him before.
Legend.
It's just crazy to think actually like the more I'm learning from scrolling back, like a lot of these guys, Tony Bradley was actually
Hmm.
on that 2021 team. Moses Brown's and a pool there. But like the consistent guys are here. Shea, Lou.
Hmm.
It's just really cool to see like most of these guys really truly did stick around. Like Kenrich has been on the team
And he's
since
been around. Yeah.
2020. Like it's crazy to think some of these guys like are truly part of this. Like obviously now we're back to Steven Adams, and then the thing doesn't count anymore. Um, but
Give him a ring anyway.
yeah, I mean Schroeder, you mentioned already. Andre Roberson does the last year for him.
Mm.
Like my point being is like there's a lot of things that have to happen to get to this point. Um, I also think it's just no coincidence. Chris Paul, as unless San Antonio and he has some revelation in the next 2 years, I'm quite coming to terms. I'm quite okay with coming with terms that he's not going to get a title, which is really sad.
Hmm.
And I mean, I just feel like it's going to be a guy that I'm going to defend with my life for the rest of eternity. For just stuff like this, where it's like that'll never be mentioned to our kids in 25 years. Where it's like, okay, Chris Paul, like that 2025 Thunder team wouldn't have won a championship without him. And we're like, what? I don't get it. And so it's just one of those things that I think we need to be the pallbearers of history here and kind of make sure
Hmm.
people understand that like this team doesn't win a championship without a lot of things going its way. Chris Paul being one of them. So it's a really cool angle. I'm glad we talked about a couple of historical things. Chet with the most blocks in Game 7 history. That's 5. Uh,
Wow.
and then I just wanted to. I had a few more, but actually, we'll do this now. Shea is in a very elite club. We've already kind of done the Shea legacy thing, so I'm going to just kind of cover
12
this
assists
week
tonight,
here.
playoff career high.
Well, but you may not even know. Adam Silver said it. Do you know what thing he did for the first time in 25 years? Are you aware of that now?
I did not catch silver, so I do
Yeah,
not.
yeah, it's hard. Yeah, a lot going on, right? So this truly puts into perspective all the stuff we talked about in Game 6, and just like how strongly willed I was making sure it was clear that he is doing something like top 25 all time type stuff. Not currently, you get my point.
Yeah.
There's only 5 people that have ever won the MVP, the scoring title, and the Finals MVP in the same season.
Oh
I'm
wow.
gonna
Yeah.
read you the list. You probably know all of them already. Kareem in 71, Jordan in 91, Jordan in 92, Jordan in 96, Jordan in 98. So let's just round him into one. Jordan did it 4 times. Shaq in 2000. That's the list. I said 5. That was wrong. 4. That's it. That's the list. That's like this is some of the greatest territory players have ever been. 68-14 record. It's stuff that like all the stuff about Mark Titus and all these other guys that are talking about the foul baiting, whatever. It's truly just it's an incredible run from a player that, quite frankly, if he doesn't have another peak season like this again, I don't think it matters. He's done things historically that I don't think we're going to appreciate in NBA history really for a long time. But I'm at a loss for trying to put it into the context of all the historical nature here. But when you're on a list of guys named Kareem, Shaq, and Michael Jordan, I think you had a damn good season. I'd say so. So I know
Yeah,
you're
no, I
reacting that
mean,
on the fly, but
yeah, one of the unfortunate modern signs of greatness is constantly moving goalposts, and who better than Shea across pro sports, honestly, at the moment with what he's done and what he's continued to do and improve, and whenever he reaches a new peak, there's always room to move the goalposts back and change the criteria of what he needs to be great. And like I alluded to earlier, there's going to be a lot of people trying to poke holes in this championship, but again, if your one knock on him is how he won a championship, I think he's doing okay. So, and again, we'll look back historically, and serious people will see how great he was individually, what he did to be the catalyst behind a team that's historically good. Um, First player ever to be the scoring champ, MVP, conference finals MVP, and finals MVP. So, not that that's probably the least important historical thing we'll say, but I saw Wob tweet it and figured why not. But again, just the driving force behind this team. Literally, all he does is drive to the bucket. And tonight, forgettably offensively, he'll look at this last line and be disappointed in himself. But that just tells me that he's ready to get back here and be even better, which should terrify the rest of the league. I can't wait. I wish they would start the next season next week, but that's me being very, very selfish. These guys deserve time off. June to October is not long enough, in my opinion. You're rewarding the 2 best teams in the league, I think, with 2 months less rest. So nothing you can really do about that. But yeah, and I'll go ahead and officially retract my Denver being the best team the Thunder played statement from, I believe, podcast 1 or 2 or both. I'd seen enough, but I've definitely seen more than enough to know that this Pacers team is the toughest team that the Thunder faced all playoffs, and at times they were the tougher team in the series, and that was evident when they went up 1-0 and 2-1 and forced a Game 7. So, yeah, the job Carlisle did, the job McConnell did, and Siakam playing like a champion early, often. They may want some turnovers back, but that's exactly where OKC was after Game 6. It seems so simple to take care of the ball, but these two teams play defense so well and so disruptively that it's much, much easier said than done. I mean, you're fighting to get inbounds passes in when these two teams play. So that's coaching, that's players buying in, that's 10, 12 guys pulling same direction, common goal. No one's better than anybody else. Guys root for each other's success, like Mark alluded to post game. So I think it's refreshing in today's NBA. We get 2 teams that want it this bad, and unfortunately, people are going to say bad finals because of how many million people live in these cities. But I think that from a pure basketball standpoint, this was the exact finals that the league needed. you have a team expected to win in 4 or 5 and it'd be a boring finals. This goes 7, and all of a sudden, this is also somehow a bad thing. More basketball is bad. You know, a 7-game finals doesn't come around much. You know, if we had our way, we'd see it every year. I don't know that I would have picked it this year, selfishly, but I mean, we had 10 finals games in 2 years. Now we get 7, but all of a sudden it's a bad thing. So you're not going to please everybody, but I think removing the Thunder aspect of my interest in this was an amazing finals. 2 teams that never quit. I mean, the Pacers down 22 on the road, immediately go on an 11-1 run and cut it right back to like sit up in your gaming chair level in the fourth quarter. So can't say enough about them. Again, I hate that Halliburton wasn't out there with his team past the early stages in this one, and he fought hard to get on the court in Game 6. And you know, people like to say that these guys make too much money, but for what he just did to himself, it appears, sacrificing his body to try and win a championship, you can't put a dollar value on that. And I think less than 1% of the entire population of this country would go out and do what he just did. So I'm hoping he can get right, whatever it is. I will say, in my non-medically licensed opinion, that looked like a pretty textbook Achilles rupture. And it's something that Lillard suffered, something that Tatum suffered, and now we lose a third All-Star, borderline All-NBA player to that in one playoff stanza. It sucks. You know, they're all in the Eastern Conference, so that's what we'll take away from it, is the, you know, East bad next year. But I feel for all 3 of those guys. Hope we see them back, especially Lillard, as he enters kind of the twilight years of the great seasons he's put up statistically. You know, alongside Giannis, who knows? And an East landscape looks like how it is. So a lot of moving pieces, and that's something we'll start to talk about, you know, post-draft a week from, or excuse me, it's actually this Wednesday. Yeah. So, you know,
Yep.
that post-draft news cycle is going to get pretty slow as we wait for college football to start back up. But yeah, really do hate it for Halliburton. He literally gave everything he had and then some. Hell of a player. I was ready to crown him a superstar after game 1. I was just shock and awe. No other way to describe it. Sitting there stunned.
Yeah.
So he deserves everything that he accomplished this season, and I think he deserves all the credit in the world. Was hard on his body and gave it everything he had until his body literally just broke. There's no better way to say it. He had absolutely nothing left. And I'm hoping that, you know, even if it does cost him a full season of what appears to be the start of a really, really, really good peak, that he can be back and continue to embody everything this Pacers team has shown us all year.
Let's do the future stuff now, but I think it's a great segue from where you were just kind of leading in with next season. Just to kind of recap a couple of things for them, just kind of talking through the dollars and things like that. They have got Pascal for the next, he's to be unrestricted in 28-29, so they've got him locked up. Tyrese is locked up at 45 for the next couple of years until 29-30. They've got Nembhard on probably the best team-friendly deal in the entire NBA. That's not exaggeration.
Yeah.
18, 19, and 20 million over the next 3 seasons.
Wow.
Obi Toppin 14, 15, and 16. Neesmith 11 and 11, unrestricted in 27. My point being, TJ McConnell 10, 11, 11.8 on a team-friendly deal. My point being is they are basically secure in their top 3. And they have team-friendly deals, and they have young guys on restricted contracts. Mathurin, Walker, Shepard, Furphy, etc. This is really this injury is a huge hit to their momentum over the next few years, because especially with taking advantage, to your point about taking advantage of the East and not having him there. Like, I'm not discrediting the fact they can't get back here, but without Tyrese, I'm sorry, but I think that's too big of a hill to climb.
It just got so much steeper.
Yeah, and they just traded back for their own pick as well. I'm not going to get into all the first apron stuff. They're they're 27 million off of all of that worry, but they've got some deadlines of some guys that are on the younger side in the next couple of years, but it's not they've got their 26th pick. They've got 27, and I believe it's top 4 protected. If not, it goes to New Orleans. 28, they're completely clear. 29, 30, et cetera. They're clear all the way to 32 after that. So they're clearly in a position that, I mean, I guess you could say Carlisle's getting on the older side. That's really what you wanted to kind of say. But I mean, that's really that's I'm kind of picking at straws at that point because I mean, I think he's what 60s at this point. I'm just looking it up now.
Oldest coach to coach in a finals game somehow.
Wait, really?
I believe I saw that after Game 6.
As in Phil Jackson didn't do that?
Wow. This was off of social media, so I take that for what you will. But I
believe
I saw
he's 65.
that. Mm-hmm.
So hold on, how old was Phil Jackson? Age in 2010. This is going to be one of the weirdest Google searches someone's ever made. He was about 65, according to Google. So that kind of checks out. That's still insane. Wow. Okay, that completely threw me off. Indiana. I mean, again, just kind of open conversation here. I've got some other stuff prepared for OKC, but I mean, is this something when you think about their future and obviously it's really going to depend on that 26th pick.
Right.
The fact that they traded for their pick back and then lost Tyrese.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think they're set up to just come back in 27 ready to go.
And that's, I think you throw your hat in the ring next year with kind of what that landscape looks like, unfortunately, due to superstar injuries in a league that if you stack them up head to head, pales in comparison to the Western Conference. So I think there's no reason not to just throw it all out there and see what you get in the East. If you win enough games to get home court, that could be massive. You never know. They're going to have a long and hard conversation about Miles Turner. I think that's going to dictate really how they approach next year.
Yeah, he's UFA. That's why I didn't even mention him. He's literally
He's as of an hour ago, he's no longer a Pacer. If you really want to think about it, I know the league year doesn't flip for another couple weeks, but
he's already not listed on Spot Track for them. So I mean, it's
right. His contract has been fulfilled. So whether you use 26 to try and finagle away to, you're not going to draft somebody there and have them fill that void that he leaves, should he leave. But I could think of teams west of them with similar colors that could use his services. So if there's a bidding war, I think they're a bit strapped as far as, with Halliburton in the fold. Could you absolutely go for it, push chips in next year? You absolutely could. And I would argue that you should. It would be malpractice not to. But similar to a Boston or even a Milwaukee, you really have to be brutally honest with yourself and say, on paper, we can contend, but we scratch this guy off. He's a huge part of why we're viewed as a contender. Are we doing ourselves a disservice by lying and saying that we could really think we can come out of the East and challenge the Western Conference champion, whoever that may be? Because you're going to play Shea or Jokic or Ant or Wemby. You're looking across at somebody that's going to be expected to beat you, and soundly. And that may not play out, but does that change the thought processes throughout the Eastern Conference of, is it worth getting there and we run it back like we did 2 years ago or last year in the finals, and we see best player, best team, little drama?
I think this is a really good example of we think about Atlanta in 21, where a playoff run is indicative of a team's success over the next 4 years. But I think them being close last year, even closer this year, I think this is indicative of, I think this step back isn't going to hurt them. They just have to really be careful about how they manage it, because Pascal's 31, Obi's 27, TJ's 33, Turner's obviously not on the, the closer side of 30 here. It really is going to be interesting. I'm not sure what they do with Turner at all. Is that a guy that potentially sees the potential beyond this year and thinks, okay, if I can keep my body right for the next 18 months, we have a really good chance of winning a championship in 2 seasons and then taking a hometown deal? I'm not sure at this stage in his career, if he gets something better, he's got to take it. But I mean, I'm not in his pocket either. And I understand I understand what he feels about Indiana, and I understand what the city feels about him. We kind of laid that out a few games ago, but my point is like it. I think the legacy conversation was quite fascinating. But the fact that he's in a position now to come off of a run like this, make a lot of money, come back one day, like I'm not sure. He's got a lot to think about. He's got a lot, very quickly to kind of retool and refigure out. But there's no doubt that Indiana's going to be 40 to 60% of themselves without Tyrese. I mean, it's just, and that number even feels a little disrespectful for his run this year. But the point is, it's like, you're playing next season without him. And I get that you'd say like punt it and go, or don't punt it and just try to go for it in the East. But at that point, it's like you can't take the year off. It's just not a thing in the NBA, despite all the rest and the tanking and stuff. They clearly, like Pascal being the best player, that's really it's actually going to push to the limit the point about being who's the best player. We kind of laid it out a couple of games ago.
I know.
Like the conversation about who's the best player on a championship team. And I think the more we sit here and talk about it out loud, the more I'm actually kind of in on the idea of them going for it because they're so young, an extra year of experience and trying to beat somebody in a round 2, round 3, whatever. Again, I think it lowers their floor and their ceiling drastically without Tyrese. I think that's abundantly clear. But, you can really retool, especially with the cap space you're saving with Turner. Maybe this is the time to kind of go all in and almost retool and kind of push it up on the fly here. And you just never know. I think with Milwaukee too, talking about the stuff we talked about a few games ago, like I was just like I was like out. I was like, no, there's no chance Milwaukee, whatever, even a bad East. Like, but there's no denying that they'd have the best player on the floor. Indiana doesn't have that advantage, right? And so at that point, can you be the best team in the East with no best player? I think they can be. I still think they can be a top 4 seed without Tyrese. Like, that's the craziest thing about it.
I think so too.
That's how weak the East is. And so I only use Milwaukee as the parallel because they would have a guy that would quite literally drag them to 49 wins. We're talking about 2 different ball games now. So the ceiling for the East, is it 48 games? New York could get there, I'm sure, but I don't know. It's just
somebody will win 50, not by much, but also I misspoke. I completely forgot that a week ago the Pacers had traded this year's pick for next year's pick, and you even said it. So
I was just making sure that
they're definitely not going to land a competent big man in this year's draft with 54. You would think, but at least not in year 1. So, do you say the dreaded 3 words sign and trade with Miles Turner, as painful as that would be as an organization?
It's a valuable return versus losing for nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, sign and trades weren't even a thing. They weren't even a thing 6 years ago, and the fact that they're able to even do that is like would just be a blessing in disguise for how this season ended for them. I really quick want to touch on OKC's future before we have to unfortunately address what happened this morning with other NBA news. OKC won a title, and here's some things to know. They have 27 picks over the next 6 years. They have only 1 player currently on roster that is above the age of 30. 56% of their roster is 25 years old or younger. They've drafted 6 of their top 10 players on the championship team, of course. Biggest trade for was Giddey for Caruso, and then 2 free agents, Hartenstein, $29 million a year, and then Joe, $2 million a year. Safe to say, I know we can't predict 2012 how it finished, 2016 how it finished, but the hump, right? You made it over the hump, and you are probably better positioned than any team in the last 25 years to win. I don't know. Let me just comfortably say 2 out of the next 5, 3 out of the next 6. I'm being for real. Like, I think that's truly real numbers there, even with the West, knowing that Victor's going to get older. Luka's only going to get better and better and better and better as he ages and gets into his true quote unquote prime that we would call it. And I'm leaving out 1,000 other teams that I'm just like off the top of my head. Houston obviously was just the 2 seed. They get Kevin Durant, whatever you want to say, like a shortened window there. Jokic is in, there we go. Let me get them all out. Jokic is over there in Denver. But I think the key to all of this though, is all the teams I just named are the only true surety that they have is their best asset. OKC does not have that disadvantage. They are as sure as any team now, tomorrow, and way down the road. And I think that's the biggest advantage. And I think that's why I'm serious when I think 3 of the next 6, 2 of the next 7, whatever. Like whatever the ratio you'd like to give is comfortably and conservatively. They think they're better positioned than any team in the last like 2.5 decades.
I mean, just looking a year ahead, you talk about position. I mean, to repeat, I mean, they are already primed, ready to go. They're the clear favorite in Las Vegas. Not that, as we learned, that means anything.
I was pulling it up as you said it. So
they're plus 250 to win next year, and the next team is the Rockets at like plus 750. So I would not bet on the latter, as we'll get into in a minute. But the Chet and J-Dub conversations are going to start this summer. Those two gentlemen are due for 9-figure contracts, as we've seen throughout the playoffs and tonight especially. Their only enemy is themselves. If the culture were to somehow unravel, I don't think that's going to happen. If guys start thinking me and not we, I don't think that's going to happen either. But this second apron is real, and it's going to cause problems, and it's going to reward teams that can't build like this, and it's going to even the playing field, because Sam Presti has created an absolute juggernaut, and no one can stop it except the league rules. I mean, Chet missed half the season with a hip fracture, missed his entire rookie year, still came back 5 blocks in a game 7. He kind of put the clamps on the mini McConnell run in the third with that block, staying with him, not fouling. Presti's going to have to make some tough decisions, I think, financially as he pays the guys you have to keep in Chet and J-Dub. And there's guys like Dort making 16, 17, 17, guys like Joe, 12, 12, 11. Those are very, very tradable contracts. You'd like to think they don't have to do that. There's no transactions to be had, but unfortunately, with the league setting up as it is to prevent the super teams, the ones that were bought, and you build one, you still run into the same thing. So it's frustrating for sure. I'm not going to give it a second thought tonight, or maybe this week or this month, but as summer turns to fall and those two guys, Chet and J-Dub, lead among them, Ousmane Dieng, the third member of that draft class also, he's probably third in line of that trio to get his money, but I think there's money to be had there. And he's a guy that we're going to be outbid on more than likely. And I hate it because it's not we don't want to pay you this. It's like, hey, the only way we're going to maintain a championship 5 and championship depth is some of these guys have got to go, and these picks that we've war-chested together are going to have to come in and fill in. And there's Thunder legends right now that haven't even started college yet. It's the worst part about winning a championship is thinking about the guys that won't be around in 2-3 years that made this happen. You'd like to think it's rotation pieces only, but as we've learned in the league, things change quickly. James Harden got traded 4 months after a finals run many, many years ago, and we've seen iterations of that ever since. Chris Middleton is a wizard, so it happens fast. No one wants it, but it is the one inevitable piece of being an NBA contender is pieces are going to have to move in and out. Especially I as a fan didn't want to see Josh Giddey go, but understanding what that brought in and why we needed it, and obviously where it got us in hindsight, maybe the best trade that Presti's ever pulled off. That being a 1-for-1 and the impact that he had on the locker room in Caruso and having the 20-point games twice. And I just don't think that we win the title without that trade, without his presence in the locker room, his championship experience. He's won a title, the toughest title I think that's been won in recent memory, just with the conditions and what was going on in the world. And people use that to place an asterisk, but I would put an exclamation point behind 2020.
Something we wholeheartedly agree on, right? Regardless of my opinion.
We've talked about it before, but yeah. So, looming reality aside, this team is not done. We'll hear from them again. We've seen it all postseason. Injuries are unpredictable. They're devastating. You never know what's going to happen, who's going to happen to. Doesn't matter how much they're achieving, they're accomplishing. No one's immune to it, unfortunately. if we could turn sliders off, I don't think anybody would be opposed to it. But that's just not reality. So you got to win them when you can, and you can look as primed as you want to. I mean, we were saying this about Boston last year, and look what happened. You just never know. Windows are never as long as you think they are. So you got to win them when you can. And if people want to explain it away, let them. They're still explaining away a title.
Yeah, you want to talk about looming? I'm just going to read extension eligible players that are in the month of July. That's in literally in a week and a half. Jalen Williams, Chow Holmgren, Usman Jang, Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams, and SGA, all within about 3 weeks of each other. Shea is Supermax eligible, which would put him somewhere in the ballpark of a 30% increase, which is $207 additional million. I'm not doing that math now, but
he'd still be underpaid. Honest to God.
Yeah, I mean, what we just laid out. I mean, Jordan, Kareem, and Shaq or something.
You can't put a price on that.
No. Obviously, it hinders potential, team building, but we understand that that's only going to go up. That money's not really real. 4 years from now, it's only this much. All the same cap BS that people tell you. He only loses 5% if he doesn't make All NBA team, which we know is not true.
Right.
But the fact that all of those guys are all eligible, but then the next time that anybody remotely relevant to the future of this team in the recent memory would be maybe Caruso, but by that point he's knocking on the other side of 30.
Right.
My point being is you're locking these guys up for a really long time if you get this done right in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be the most interesting part. Obviously, again, you're not going to get all these done on July 1. I get that. Shays is not till July 6th. Same thing with Dort. Kenrich is at the end of the month. The point being is really, really, really watch the waiver wire and the contract, negotiations over the next 6 to 8 weeks, because that's really going to tell you how serious this team is on the score and how much they're going to get paid, because they're owed and deserved how much. But Presti's, we know Presti's not going to do that if he doesn't believe that's not going to get what it needs to be done. But he did emphasize something I thought was really interesting. He talked about these guys and just kind of he kind of emphasized, of course they're going to emphasize Shea and Jalen, whatever. He just emphasized how important they are to building a team and how right this team was. And granted, he was given a leash that was longer than 6 years. And that's kind of the cool thing about this whole turnaround.
Right.
But he kind of, the way he spoke about those guys, he pretty much made it very clear. I think they're trying to build around these guys. And like you said, I think the case is clear for just retooling and keep using the picks around them. I think it's a very simple strategy that clearly has been executed really well. And it'll be interesting to see if these guys just get every dollar and penny that they're capable of making. And then, you figure it out around the edges.
I mean, Jalen Williams was out-earned by Nikola Topic this year, and Topic didn't touch the floor. So
that is kind of wild.
Raises are coming. I mean, J-Dub's like 12th on the team in salary. I'm looking at it now. He made 4.7 this year and just averaged 26 in the finals. You can almost slide the decimal point over at that point, because to your point, 10% of the cap now is 6% of the cap in 2 years. And that's really the only saving grace OKC is going to have against the vice grip of the second apron, is just how much TV money can they possibly make, and how much can the stupid numbers get stupider as we approach. We're less than a decade away from $100 million seasons.
Oh yeah, no, we're
at the rate we're at.
If I did the research right the last couple months, Jokic, I believe, will be the first person. I think it's Jokic
60
to get. He'll be the first to get 60. But then, if I got the numbers right, he will be the first guy eligible for 80 as well. After that, it's all fair game or whoever. But
which is, I
think he's the first guy that'll be eligible for 60 and 80. I'm 99% sure I got that right.
I believe it.
I'd have to do the more spot track nasty work, but
right.
So my point of bringing it up is, again, nothing's guaranteed. I really just think the West and how insane. I like my only argument against anything people say about how good the West is, and you're included in that because you've made that very clear. West is really strong, and obviously, I've missed plenty of teams in the minutes I said earlier. Look at Phoenix, and look at how quickly things can go south. I mean, really, 18 months. They went from a new owner, all excited, get Kevin Durant, get Kevin Durant, to one of the worst transactional managements maybe in any sport ever. Like granted, I understand that's maybe an extreme case, but that's a team that is in the West that's no longer a contender that you have to continue to look at and go. Sacramento, same thing. Like Sacramento's not a threat, not a real one. Golden State, Steph's on the other side of things. Draymond's on the other side of things. Steve Kerr's probably not coaching Golden State in the next 5 years. Like it's just look at all these teams that have been mainstays in recent memory and would kind of interrupt any of these runs. I mean, the Clippers and Lakers. Clippers are in a better chance, but Kawhi's on the other side of of his prime. The Clippers obviously have some interesting pieces that they've made work, and I think they were kind of just an exciting, fun pick this year. I mean, the Lakers, beyond Luka, the uncertainty there is
that team's not built yet.
It's not ready. Dallas just got Cooper Flag. Like, there's no telling.
Well, we think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's no telling what that team looks like in 24 months. Like even with Kyrie, even with Anthony Davis, right? They're in two different timelines. So Dallas makes sense. Dallas might not be really a contender until Cooper Flag's second contract. Like I'm laying out real cases that like even Denver, we've seen Denver like that core is not aging as beautifully as we thought they might, and
depth isn't there anymore.
That's 7 teams I just laid out. That's 7 spots. They're not as exciting. Zion's not going to turn around the New Orleans Pelicans anytime soon. Memphis, you need Ja to play more than 54 games or whatever it is. Like that's 9 teams I just gave you. That's 9 spots, and that automatically puts the Oklahoma City Thunder automatically in the top 5 without really having to do anything. That's simple. I think that's getting overblown a little bit. I think a little bit of it is because of uncertainty. I think a little bit of it is just the sheer amount of talent at the top. If all these guys on these teams are the best players on their team at any given moment, like we've made this. We actually talked about it last year or the year before when Denver won. We were like, if you take Jokic off, I think it was part of the MVP arguments, but you get the point. Same idea. If you took Jokic off the Nuggets, I mean, they're picking top 3 in any situation. Like, I feel like that's disrespectful to Jamal Murray, but like,
is it
82 games without Jokic? Like, I don't know. I mean, that Denver might be an ABA team again. Like, I mean, it's like we're talking real things here, and
that's dark stuff.
But that's my point. Is like all these teams, like again, Luka, Cooper Flag, same thing. Victor, I think that's going to be your biggest competition over the next 48 months. Is going to be, what Victor's ascension is going to look like. But to your point about just like the way this team's built and how they're going to retool. I know I'm long-winded here, but you got the head start on them.
Oh, for sure.
So that's the part I would be pointing to. I'd be really, really far-fetched to think that Oklahoma City can't be in just as good a position in the next 3 to 6 years that of any team really in recent memory. And that was kind of the whole point I laid out was I wanted the West Point to be its own thing, but I also want the contractual, hey, I know we can't look at 2012 and 2016, kind of put our hands up and say like it is what it is, but you've got over the hump. You've done the thing that those 2 teams couldn't do. And you're better positioned in the future better than any of those teams. So I think it's a very unique situation they're in, and it's really fun and exciting. And I'm happy for you. It's been one of the more cool seasons to watch in recent memory. And like I said, I can't talk about Shea enough. And but yeah, I have one more thing, but I wanted to stop ranting for a second and see where else you wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean it's surreal. The NBA landscape rarely goes very long without changing. So we may even see some moves on draft night that further seismically alter our perception on next season, as young as it is, just hours old. And we'll, I'm sure, close with the first earthquake of the offseason. But just one of those things that's never guaranteed. Winning while you can. I've said it like 7 times already, but this stuff's never promised. Every team that wins a title is supposed to win next year until it doesn't happen. That's very, very rare. But to your point, I think you made it very, very well. This team is set up to win not only one, but maybe 2 and 3 more. Understanding that none of it's promised, but the assets they have under contract, the draft assets they have to make any tweaks they ever would need to think of for this roster. It's an embarrassment of riches. I can't think of a better way to put it. And I would rather have no one else than Presti to make the cap magic happen and make some tough decisions and continue to keep this team as elite as they have been for the better part of the last 2 years.
A single person, my last thing on Oklahoma City before we talk about, let's call it 5 minutes on Kevin Durant and Houston. I know one singular transaction and thing does not get you to an NBA championship. I've made that very clear tonight. I'm going to read you some names, and I want you to tell me what they all have in common. David Vanderpool, Adrian Griffin, Brian Keefe, Darvin Ham, and Charles Lee. This isn't really a trivia question. I just think it kind of turned into one by accident. All those guys have something in common.
Is it something about mid-season acquisitions or off-season acquisitions?
David Vanderpool, Adrian Griffin, Brian Keefe, Darvin Ham, and Charles Lee. And then Mark Dagnall is related to those fellas as well, but he has one thing that they do not.
Trying to remember where Griffin was in 19. I would assume the title puts him in very rarefied air, especially at 40.
Those guys are all coaching candidates that did not get the Oklahoma City Thunder job in 2020. Mark Dagnall did.
God, was that really the short list? I mean, I remember thinking, I was like, oh, we're going to get Spo. Are you kidding me? Which stupid. But my first reaction when I heard that it was Dagnall was, who? I knew of him. I knew the G League team had been doing well, but I didn't think that, even as a Clemson fan, hiring from within didn't even occur to me. I had no concept of we're going to bring up the G League coach. And the first thing I did, like everybody else, was Google him. And the first thing that came up was that picture of him and Caruso that's going to hang in the hallways of that franchise forever.
It's cool stuff.
So, I mean, it's the popular choice is rarely the one that works out. We've seen the coaching carousel. We both argue it spins much too quickly for any kind of real success to be given ample opportunity and room to breathe. But, didn't go get a retread, didn't go get the biggest name, been around the block guy that he could have to the not exactly metropolis of Oklahoma City, but he saw something in Mark and made it happen. And I don't think anyone thought that Mark was ahead of any of the guys that you named on that short list. But he got the job and gave him the runway to be successful. I mean, he lost the game by 72 points 4 years ago. 3.5 years ago, but who's counting? Other teams with as much talent have acted swiftly and blamed the coach and, axed the head of the coaching snake and brought in another coach, and they've, predictably not found a lot of success with that approach. When you look around the league at the guys that have been doing this the longest, Spoelstra, Kerr, Popovich until unfortunately recently, and now Dagnall, those guys have been around the longest. They all have titles. It's not a coincidence.
Yep.
Spo came from the video room all the way up. That will honestly never happen again. And I hate it, but it's never going to happen again. But what he went through to get to where he was and managing 3 Hall of Famers and Wade, LeBron, and Bosch, I think will forever be underappreciated. But yeah, I can't say enough about Mark. He's just getting started. We don't have many lifer coaches, but man, I really hope that we can keep him around and let him fully develop and keep putting his fingerprints all over this team and they continue to see the same success.
Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting because immediately, as soon as I kind of had 15 to 20 minutes while you absorbed everything after the game final, was like, man, Mark Dagnall, huh? That's a guy that is now part of a coaching fraternity that is about as exclusive as anything. And so I immediately was like, huh. It took me some time because, man, finding some research like that in 20 minutes, I relied on AI and I relied on Google a little too much, but I was never able to actually track down a Woj finalist tweet. Like Woj was really good about not really doing finalist tweets. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
But he straight
He
up
waited for
was
the real
like,
news.
yeah, and he did a great job of covering Dagnall back then too. I thought it was really interesting, and just his impact with the blue. But yeah, I thought those lists of names were intriguing. All right, really quick, because it's late on the East Coast, and obviously I want you to go enjoy and bask in all of this, and also try to sleep. So Kevin Durant is a Houston Rocket. I don't really have the trade in front of me. I'm in no way surprised. I'm not.
No.
So, what was your, I guess, initial reaction this morning when that went through?
Well, funny enough, I was driving back from Nashville to Greenville, not a short trek, but pulled off for gas as it looks like gas might get as expensive as its Thunder roster very soon. So I have that to thank for me finding this out 2 hours after, not 6 hours after. But if you're Houston, you're going to make a deal like that. I think that's as best you could possibly do. We said it. I don't know if I said it on here or not, but I've said in text chains and things like that like if Houston wants a Giannis or a Durant, they have the best collection of young assets that they
Talked
can
about it.
move.
Yep.
And now, obviously, Durant, Giannis, I would trade for Giannis, as would everybody else. But obviously, that's going to come with a lot more to give up. And, Giannis has to want to play there. And Durant hasn't exactly made a career of being a happy athlete. But I think if you're Houston, you're the 2 seed. No one took you seriously. Bounced in the first round. Hindsight being 2020. They had things missing. As in, down 2 with 3 minutes left, who the hell's shooting the ball? Fred VanVleet is not the right answer. As we saw in the playoffs, all the close games they lost, which, I mean, it feels like it was 2 years ago. So forgive me if they actually did win like a 1 or 2 possession game. But
no, I don't remember any of those occurring.
Every time the game got down to the wire, like, okay, one team knows who's shooting, the other team doesn't know who's shooting. I wonder what's going to happen. And it sure enough played
Even
out.
when it's coming with Golden State, especially, like it was
with Steph, you can't stop it.
That when they knew how to defend it, and they still weren't able to do it, and like it, young and inexperienced, I think this doesn't speed up your clock, nor does it retract what you have anyway.
But to me, if you're shipping out Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green, 2 players that I'm
like
sorry,
5
I don't.
second-round picks, like
who cares? Yeah. Second-round picks aren't real. I mean, number 10 pick Wednesday. That's, I think, honest to God, the best asset in the deal. I don't say that lightly. I think we've had plenty of time to see
Jalen Green.
Green
Screw it up either. That's the thing. Like,
yeah. Are you going to pick a guy as good as Kevin Durant at any point in his career at 10? No. Unless Cooper Flag goes on a murder spree and he's still going number 1. So it doesn't matter. That's the only kid with a chance. It's not. Now, could you have called Nico and said, hey, we'll give you Cam Whitmore and 10 for 1, and he doesn't hang up? We'll never know. But Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green being the guys you send out for a surefire Hall of Famer, 15-time All-Star, most famous trader in the history of the NBA, but that's a story for another day. I think you do it. I think Houston, like I said, if you're going to do a trade like this, they did it as well as you possibly could. Reed Shepard, still a Rocket. Şengün, still a Rocket. Jabari Smith, still a Rocket. And I think if Kevin Durant wants a serious shot at a title, he's going to have to snap out of like the glass a third empty attitude and truly buy in and kind of embrace the fact that he's joining again a team that in this case can't win a title without him. He's been brought in to bring them the extra mile. He's won 2 titles on a team that frankly didn't need him to win a title. They just needed him not on another team, one certain team. But I mean, right when you think the West is settled and you only have 4 or 5 all-world players vying for it, here comes Kevin Durant from the clouds to a contender in my eyes immediately in Houston. Now, will they be the 1 seed next year? No, but
They were the 2 seed this year.
Right. They have a guy now late with priors that you don't want to tangle with late. And so I think if you're Houston, they may have already won the offseason. The hardest thing to do in this sport is to go from where they were this year to the top. That last inch is the hardest thing to do. We've seen it with Thunder teams in the past. We've seen it with almost every franchise that gets there and almost. When you come up just short, or you play 82 games and you're the 2 seed and you get bounced in the first round, I mean, they have work to do. And they, at this point, their offseason is pretty much over with. I mean, maybe sit Reed Shepard down and say, hey, sorry about last year, but like you're going to get minutes now. I don't think Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green were guys that you were waking up thinking like, okay, we're going to win a championship because of Jalen Green. We're going to win a championship because of Dylan Brooks, but we're going to win a championship because Kevin Durant is actually going to inspire some belief in that locker room. So I thought they did well to lock up Ime Udoka as well. You know, the circumstances surrounding his exit from Boston are still not what you want from a leader of men, but I think he's gone past that and he'll never fully atone for it. But I mean, what can you do except trust him to correct going forward? And he's, I thought, done well in Houston and you know, given the air to breathe and the space to work that is rare these days, unfortunately. But I think that this Houston team, if they're the 2 seed next year, I don't blink. I'm not surprised. And they're sure as hell not going home in round 1 next year either. I know Durant has not found playoff success as of late, but, you know, I think that was a Phoenix thing. I don't think that was a Durant thing. And I think he's better off now not being on a super team. There's no pressure. He's not in New York. He's not trying to get a Phoenix team that was halfway to a finals victory over the hump anymore. There's no Bradley Beal making $80 million to do nothing over your head. So I think getting away from the superstar just assembly model that has plagued him in his pursuit of a championship outside of Golden State, I thought Houston was his best chance to get a third title. So for him, even as a Thunder fan, that's where I wanted him to land. That's the best place for him to be for his championship aspirations, that as a competitor he's going to have until the day he hangs up the shoes. But for Houston to not give up any untouchables, which everybody's untouchable until you really get down to the nitty gritty of like Kevin Durant's going to be on a flight over here, or Giannis especially. I thought they did really, really well because second round picks, again, who cares about that? I would trade 60 second round picks for Kevin Durant. Doesn't matter. I mean, at that point, again, to your point, that's less things you can screw up if you're Houston. You're getting a known quantity in exchange for a lottery ticket, literally at 10. So I thought they did really well to bring him in. Obviously, Giannis, if he does move, is the prize of the offseason. But
there are rumors about them being there together. Now that this deal happened the way it did, I'm not sure I believe any of that. But
you have to put 5 players on the court. There's no way, and that's just respect for Giannis.
And I mean, the argument would be, well, Durant went for that quote unquote cheap. But then I mean, it's literally you playing, like you said, you have to play 5 guys. It's like you get rid of Thompson, you get rid of VanVleet. Like you would literally get rid of everything you have left and talk about leveraging your future.
You got to put this in perspective. What would Durant have fetched if he had been traded from Oklahoma City?
Yep.
We're pretty much there.
I think the part that I love that we did this, at least, even though it's 12:40 Eastern Standard Time after an NBA championship, we fundamentally agree it's a correct value package for Kevin Durant at this current state, because I think a lot of that plays into his age, but also, again, I think it's somewhat of a Phoenix problem. Phoenix has no eggs in a basket to be playing with, so they had to just take what they could get.
Zero leverage.
I think we also fundamentally disagree on Kevin Durant being a number 1 option at 37 years old. I think that's I think that's the disconnect for me right this moment is that now, granted, the supporting cast I think is really young, really strong.
Mhm.
They were really good defensively. I think very clear how I feel about Ime Udoka.
Mhm.
I think that's probably the third best asset that team has right this moment.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Assuming he can, not cheat on Nia Long again. I mean, just think about where Boston would have been. Boston won a title 2 years after that. It's crazy. I think that's my hesitation at this point. It's just I can't get past. I know you have some allegiances and some of the trader stuff, but yet so fondly you can speak of him at this age and be like, this is a guy I would like trade my left arm for. Like, I mean, I think you're totally right about that.
Mhm.
I have concerns with now. Do I agree with you? I think there'll be the second round or better team. Of course I do. Like, I think just as it's constructed, fully healthy, I don't have any doubt about that. I have a doubt about the fact that like this guy's 37, and I continue to point to I think LeBron is still the exception to the general rule of NBA age.
Oh, no doubt.
No, I know we're heading directions
Any
in
sports
medicine,
age, honestly.
but we're heading that direction where guys are just going to be better for longer. But honestly, Durant's kind of surprised me, and like I thought he would have retired like at any point in the last 3 seasons, just because of who he
Yeah.
is and the personality. And
How
I
bad
just
Phoenix went.
how
Yeah.
back Phoenix. I just wonder if it was just like, all right, I kind of enjoy myself outside of basketball, but I think the whole thing with him is he just really enjoys playing. Like I think he's just a sicko in that
Mhm.
regard. I think that's what's kept him around. I think Houston really, really shortened their like we can really win a championship window without truly damaging their future. I think that's kind of my overarching point that
Exactly.
I brought up at the beginning. The problem is, I don't think Kevin Durant wins them a championship in 2 years.
I don't either.
That's
But
truly where I think I'm
with what
at with it.
would have come out of the cupboard for Giannis, I think they have more of a chance with Durant.
You're at least taking a chance. I get it. Like
Yeah.
I think it's impressive that even in like a weird year with the West a little bit, like I think it's crazy that they were the second seed. I just think they ran into a really
Oh,
unfriendly
I know.
matchup. I don't know if I
Right.
necessarily thought they needed to even do this, but granted, you got to really think Jabari Smith's going to be 40% of what Kevin Durant could be, even at 37.
Yeah.
And that then I'm with you. Like I think at that point you're grasping for straws. But I mean,
Yeah.
I can't discredit a 2 seed. Like that's insane.
In
Now,
Houston's
granted, I
defense,
know
that
Memphis.
Warriors team with Butler was not the Warriors team we saw for 2/3 of the season.
Of
That
course,
was bad timing, bad matchup, downhill momentum, whatever you want to call it.
not to discredit
You know,
Houston, by the way, but Memphis was like 2
no.
games out of the 3 spot. Like it's not like this was
Yeah.
some Houston to 2 seed. Everyone else was 17 games
No.
behind. Like
It was very, very crowded below 1 for sure. Yeah.
yeah, that was really all I had. I think it's just Phoenix is in complete and utter purgatory. It's
Send
hard
them
to
to Seattle.
watch.
I mean, good Lord.
It's hard to watch. It really is. Like Devin Booker's made it clear he kind of wants to be a lifer. Like I think that's really awesome.
He's now Mike Trout.
Yeah,
I mean,
to your credit about being a fan and knowing how that franchise treated those guys. But I mean, Devin Booker, we're talking he'll get 60 plus the same year Jokic will in 2 years. And Bradley Beal will be an unrestricted free agent that year. Thank the Lord Almighty. Jalen Green, this is the roster for next year as of this current moment. This is sans that 10th pick. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen. 4 of those guys out of the last 5 I just mentioned are all shooting guards by definition. Royce O'Neal, Cody Martin is also a shooting guard by definition, even though he's listed as a small forward. Micic, I always forget his first name. Nick Richards, Ryan Dunn, and Oso Iguodala. That team might be lucky to win 28 games. Straight up.
If they could play 100 games, they might not win 28. I mean, that we do win totals, we might cut that out.
South.
I mean,
not
Jesus
less.
Christ.
South of whatever the number is.
There's
Anything
my
else?
first under. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Go ahead and lock that in now. Already made the bet. All right. It's late and it's a weeknight, technically. Anything else about the championship on the way out? I mean, it's just, again, we've had time to absorb a little bit, but they've won the championship. It is what it is now.
I mean, even the progression of me and you talking, whether it was midseason, the MVP debates, whatever it was, just watching this come to fruition from, the similar hot start early to looking like one of the better regular season teams, and having the fresh scars from last year of what that meant to the team and how far under expectations they played in the postseason, especially Jalen Williams, which, he sets the bar where it is. It's not a case of moving goalposts. He puts the bar that high with his play, and he had a 40-point game in these finals that was honestly incredible. And I don't think that anyone's going to slide him as the second option for this team for a very long time. Should his number come up for a payday this summer, earned it to say the least. Any of the guys you listed that are due for it, if they get it, we just saw why you pay the money. It does not feel real. I've had whatever's on ESPN on for an hour and a half since the game ended. Hasn't sunk in. I mean, I remember being a kid and watching SportsCenter when it was actually substantive, and that first 2 minutes they just show the highlights of the championship teams, and never in my life have I seen a professional team win a title. My Clemson grad was lucky to be there. They won 2 titles, but yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. I wish I had $50,000 to be there live, but I honestly don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much, which sounds insane. But my whole life I've been one to kind of just games like this. I'm by myself. Like, don't even look at me. Like I almost don't even have my phone in the room with me. And intrusive thoughts creeped in when it got cut to 10, and this Thunder team answered the bell. Didn't lose back-to-back games the whole postseason. Plenty of times if they had, it would have been the effective end of their season. But they continued to, shoot themselves in the foot, but then subsequently answer the bell and make it right. And of course, in true Thunder fashion, you can't have it easy. Not 4, not 5, not even 6. Went the full 7, and even that was an uncomfortable 7. So again, all the credit in the world to Halliburton, Siakam, Mathurin, Toppin, McConnell, Carlisle, on down the list 1 through 15 for Indy. And yeah, I'm going to be like the most annoying person anyone that knows me knows for a while, because this stuff's never promised. Big market, small market, doesn't matter. We saw Denver, we saw Boston. Neither one of them even playing for it this year. So, yeah, just going to keep watching confetti fall and try to tell myself it's real, and not think that there's a game 8 in 2 days that I have to worry about and stress out about. But, I mean, it's amazing. I've watched this team, my shots at Durant stem from starting to watch this team in 07 because the uniforms were cool, and Durant was good at Texas when I started watching college basketball. And almost 20 years later, it finally results in a championship. So long time coming. I still don't forgive Patrick Beverley or Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson, but all those battle wounds came and culminated in this. So I'm going to enjoy it, and I'd love to see him back in this thing next year.
I think back to 2023. We sat sometime mid-June and we said, man, it'd be nice to do more than 5 of these next year. I think back to 2024 and same couple weeks there, and sat back and went, man, it'd be really nice to do more than 5 of these.
How stupid I was then.
You got your wish. We did 7 of them. One of them will be lost to eternity because of scheduling issues. And long story short,
anyway, it's history.
It'll be back. I got to get it out eventually. But I had to go out of town this weekend for some stuff that I will share. People will follow me on Facebook. We'll see it already. But I went to go get that pod done, and I had some things I had to pack, and then we left earlier than I expected. And I looked up and I went on Sunday, and I went, oh my God, I never posted game 6. So, I had full intentions of getting it out on Friday. It just didn't happen. So here we are. I'd rather get this one out. This is the one that's really cool. Again, big credit to Indiana. We wouldn't even be having 7 of these if it wasn't for them. But now I'm happy for you. I don't know a ton of Thunder fans, quite frankly, but obviously as many pods as you've been on with me over the last couple of years, and I'm throwing all these random draft questions at you, and I'm not here to brag, but I was a check guy that year. I have receipts to prove it. This entire podcast proves it. You were the witness to that. Paolo's late surge to the Magic obviously worked out well for them, but only one of those guys has won an NBA championship. So really cool stuff. Congratulations. And look, you know how I am about NBA history, and I think this one will be looked at very, very fondly. So, yeah, I think this culminates the last couple of months of how great the season was. And I'm looking forward to whatever's next with the show and with the Thunder. So on behalf of Grayson, the 1009 podcast, all of that stuff is linked in the description below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and got some interesting stuff coming out here in the next couple of weeks. Just be on the lookout for YouTube. I've already told Grayson what it is offline, but yeah, I'll leave it at that. Going to be an interesting change here with the 2-Pointers podcast. But look, it's been really, really fun. I've really enjoyed these. Game 7s are hard to come by, and much less in the NBA Finals, as we've established. So enough rambling from me. It's almost 1 o'clock on a Monday. This has been the 2-Pointers podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, and congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder.